information you can go off to. You can just watch, see where they lose their matches, watch and see where the weaknesses of the setups lie. As we head into these bans, the Twitch is happening to be removed first. Now, it's not a ban we very often see. Of course, the drones are helpful to get rid of utility, but the F2 in the right hands, that is a monster to play against.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always had this synonymous reputation as being one of the best guns in the game. Twitch herself, she had a bit of a drop-off from where she used to be with the, you know, before she got the rework and the zaps were kind of pulled back in terms of intensity and what they could do. Then it was spruced a little bit, but the kind of plethora that Thatcher can offer, the setup in those usual games, it's usually him that gets knocked off the board if you're looking to limit that. Taking care of Twitch, removing that is much more of a target play. It's much more of a, we know that you like to play this, we know that you're good with this, so we're going to go back to basics. Thatcher's going to stay on the board unless you want to remove him. Let's try and play this game as we think. Valk and Smoke, I think Smoke is a ban that we've actually seen from FaZe a few times in general, but again,
it's not a common ban.
No, and that's it. Like that. If the same way when you can talk about how they sort of play this big map pool, they banned Smoke twice. I think it was against Latin American teams that they sort of went up against.
Could be.
But at the same time, they've also banned Ying. They banned Jackal. They banned Ash twice. They've banned a consistent list of... They almost have a different ban setup for every single team they've gone against. They're well prepped and ready for what they want to take out here against TSM.
It's also fun to note the Capitao that has now been removed. You might be wondering, like, why? But it is a operator that in a map like Coastline can be very crucial for certain setups. And for attacks mainly, get those incendiary bolts in the rotation so they're unable to be peeked. Get the micro smoke bolts out so you have a couple of less lines of sight to worry about. So I'm really liking the bans we're seeing. It is not the usual, let's put it up like that, and that is going to be making for a very more variated game of Siege. And as I'm quickly checking, I do indeed see the smoke ban. It was used against Liquid.
Yep.
And as I'm checking, I believe also against One. So you're right on that.
Yes.
Both the Latam teams they faced, not against Furia though. So against One and Liquid, they banned out the smoke. And thus will do so here against TSM as we're waiting to get going.
It's also worth mentioning, obviously, that Team 1 game was on Coast. It was another sort of place where it went pretty much all the way, 8-7. FaZe were just able to take it out at the very end. And Team 1 is this, you know, kind of big upstart sort of team. We're just making sure everybody is obviously able to get into the game and get ourselves sorted, obviously. And you have this situational idea of... what are you going to bring to this moment, and are they going to have that similar sort of pace? TSM, you have a little bit more drive around their sort of structure because NA is historically, and at the moment especially, a very structured region. Their takes, their kind of executes are musical, but then we've watched FaZe this group stage, who are another sort of team on that. So I think they're going to find themselves a little bit more, I guess, potentially scarpered by these swap outs than... they were in the matchup versus Team 1. I think TSM are probably more likely to be able to adapt and swing around and move without those operators on the board, which are otherwise, it's not that they're usual bans or not usual bans, but it's that they can be quite structural bans with those smokes, with those sort of crossbow bolts. It's the limitation there where I think TSM are less likely to struggle than Team 1 were.
It is definitely true, and it is going to be interesting to see how it works out as we are finally getting in the way. Technical pause has been resolved, and that means we will find out who's going to be taking the initiative here. We instantly see the mirror being picked out. Now, if you keep in mind that the Twitch was banned, I was already thinking, like, if the mirror does stay up, we might have an opportunity of seeing her a couple of times, because it is an operator that got introduced to it Coastline, of course, as it was during the same season. Velvet Shell. And with that, every site changed. Every single map, every single site changed. Because suddenly there were lots more lines of sites that could be created, which could be challenged by the defenders for free. And you needed to make sure that, well, you would take care of those mirror windows, either with a vertical or with a Twitch drone. to make sure that those would be unplayable. And now Gio will be picking up that that mirror, and that means that it is going to be a PC utility that needs to be dealt with if FaZe wants to go for an execute.
I mean, it's all those extensions, isn't it? Obviously, this was the map where she was introduced into the game. It was the growth of the scene and the growth and the development of the meta in the game itself. There's not too many operators that have had a big as impact as Mira has. She allowed us to grow into this idea of an extension. The difference between her being added before and the game where it was a lot more stoic, a lot more turtled, a lot more locked off, to after where we began to see the first early stages of development. It's evolution. And this is, Mira is, well, it's not the missing link, it's the link that we know between old school and what became modern Siege.
She was basically like a very high ban rate, very high pick rate until the bans came around.
Yeah.
Then she became a very high ban rate. That has now changed, and operators like Valkyrie and Thatcher have taken the spot. Of course, Thatcher on that attack, not necessarily as Ella. First one to be spotted out is going to be the Jekyll track, and they're going to be aware of the fact that Bolo is behind the bar now, most likely playing with that FO12. There you have it. As the pistol was in hand. Has to be careful though, because the hat gets spotted out. Just barely stays alive there though.
Oh, it's dangerous. You assume there's a couple of discs there to make sure they can't just get the quick peek. There's Iana offering a Gemini around the side. This is so much dedication to get this one player out of Aqua so they can start themselves setting up. They found a little bit of a loose thread here and they're going to pull on it, but look at the timer. It's 1:30. They're still just trying to apply this pressure here. You can see Bullet is covering the rotation in case they go luggage. There's a man underneath. That's 4 players currently that we know are active, trying to find just one out. They have grenades. Here's those were my discs we talked about before. This is his offer. This is his safety, and that's a man trying to hold on. Finally dropped, but achieved is found in the meantime as well. A quick double for Cyber, potentially achieved, was trying to offer some assistance, offer some help, and he's been dropped. So now FaZe has a very quick recoup. They have to set themselves up again, reposition, and start to lock down the rest of the top floor.
Took a long while before they started using these grenades, however, but it doesn't matter because they have opened up the default into the blue bar, and that means they have the opportunity to try and go for the plant. There's still 2 nitro cells left in the hands of Team SoloMid, and as a grenade now would be used soon by Souls to clear out probably this mirror window. The C4 is already being pulled up. The smokes are coming out as well though, and that means it's being masked for a potential plant.
I think they wanted to bait out a little bit of utility, but they sneak through. Merc says no entry, and that's the man from above, and they didn't quite get the full lockdown, but they have got Gio down, and Souls has crept his way in around the back stairs. FaZe open us up. They were able to methodically put a lot of pressure there. We could see it step by step. It started, as I said, huge amount of time on Bolo up in Aqua, able to get the double for the trouble as well, and the pace of them then dropping all the way down to Office. They ignored the extension of Merc for a little bit in the terms of they left one person there. They didn't have all 4 bodies still trying to clutch down on the top floor, and then it came to that play of that first smoke, see if they could bait something, and then allowed them the pressure to alleviate themselves inside.
The vertical play did work well, just unfortunately for 1 kill, and FaZe able to quickly work off that. If there's one thing that FaZe needs to take away is that the grenade could have been there way sooner. They've been struggling about 90 seconds with the player behind the Aqua bar, and well, if just a quick grenade from the bottom would have solved that job, they would have been able to... Oh, that's how the double came through.
So he did come around, as I said. He came around to try and offer some support, dropped from the cover, and then obviously the take from above there. Cameraman was the one that was left upstairs trying to find people. They still had... It's the thing about Coastline, the Danger Donut, is if you have that control over the center of it, that big opening, you can cut off a lot of rotations. You can make things very uncomfortable, especially in that situation. So where we saw the FaZe bodies at the end of that, I think it was Cyber was on the roof the entire time. Or not Cyber even. Bullet potentially was on the roof the entire time. They were able to keep that eagle eye on luggage, and then when they needed to, they rotated around to the opposite side. Then they had the eagle eye down, which could either cover the man trying to leave billiards and that sort of area, or the bottom of kitchen and that sort of area. You're offered these massive, important sight lines. It's like trying to avoid the laser beams in a stealth game, like in Splinter Cell. You know what they're watching, but it's tough to find the time.
Chief doesn't know how much danger he really is here in the kitchen. Some pings are coming out, but I'm not sure if he's aware of the man that is hiding inside a Sunrise. He's trying to hold off as well. They are aware of the position of that Melusi, and they're going to be trying to surround him as we go. And Chief almost getting the headshot there, but doesn't know that maybe the jump in already from the window will be there. Chief will go down. That is the entry frag here for FaZe, and starting off strong right after that first attack.
Immediate pickup there. We could see they had so much intel and they threaded it across, but look at the TSM bodies trying to pile back to site as quickly as they can. They've realized how much of their extensions are sort of being cut off by FaZe's approach. They have the intel and they have the confidence to hop in and go for these 1 versus 1s. They're setting themselves in these really good situations of, okay, well, we know where they are, and this is the highlight that we've seen FaZe do so consistently throughout this tournament. Their ability to thread their attacks step by step, procedurally sort of start to pull apart defenses as they've now taken another body on the top of White, and they're looking for one more all the way deep towards Hall of Fame from behind the billiard tables. Can't quite pocket Charlotte just yet, but he's in a very tough situation because you know that FaZe is well aware, and it's actually Geo that starts to suffer the next.
Astro taking a lot of damage and will go down eventually. Geo managing to get down, but as the last man standing, gets a great headshot down onto Cyber, but is afraid he's getting pressured from below. And as the pickup will be happening, no, well, not even. Bullet picking up the kill there. And his FaZe to pick up round number 2 here on Coastline. They're just laughing, they're smiling, they're having so much fun. It's so great to see when the players are not very stressed. They're just having fun, they're smiling, they're laughing, looking at each other. It's exactly what they're doing here. And 2 rounds in a row, good start. Heavily relying on entries, I would say. Able to pick up these early double kills every single time is right here. Astro, first kill to achieved, and then it gets followed up by Souls almost instantly onto Bolo from the hatch. A beautiful shot, by the way.
Yeah, it was such a clean take, and I think that's what we're getting the idea of is we're seeing these drones in action. We're seeing the setup, but we're not seeing a huge amount of time before they actually act upon it. They're really realizing that they have this early advantage. They're saying, well, there's one here. Okay, let's get them. Let's not think about the next step for a little bit in terms of 3 steps later. Let's not think about the execute for now. We have 1 loose body here and 1 loose body here. This is a problem. This is a 2-person problem. We are 5 people. Let's solve it. And they are. And because of that, TSM are finding themselves a little bit too isolated because the cover systems that they're setting up, these extensions that they're trying to thread around the base of Coastline, which is what it offers because it's just a big square, they're being cut off at these vital points, and then suddenly you haven't just lost the man, you've lost the man covering the man, and now you're in the situation of we got to get back to site because they're going to find us next.
I think the issue with TSM, especially during that last round, is, you know, you had achieved on their own, but he was basically already surrounded within 10 seconds of that round. There was no way that someone would come and help, and, well, it is just a 3v1 at that point, especially if then the player in Sunrise picks up the kill into Bolo. There's no one there to respond on the likes of TSM. That's what's going wrong. FaZe has just allowed these 3v1 situations every single time, and they're able to pick up the kills as a result. And this is something TSM needs to address. They need to make sure that they are not just, well, finding themselves alone against multiple, because that will not end well.
Well, Achieved wants to try and put a bit of a first fight here, but Bolo's going to be the one that gets locked off in security room. They're going for a slow swing here. They're not putting themselves, but you can see that they've entirely taken over Astro. There's 1 body on the closed door. There's 1 body pushing him in security. He has a bit of help from Achieved, but Cyber is able to win out that 1 versus 1. He doesn't try and rotate back around the other side, and now that puts them in the situation where they've very quickly gotten a big lock off on this huge corner of the map.
Long bullet holes being held, but in the meantime, I believe they're setting themselves up again to go for a plant right behind the blue bar. And they would like to have some control, potentially, of the lobby, because that is often a place where a contest can be risen up from. And Charlotte is the one that is playing around here, taking care of the Gemini replicator, but will be falling back. We still have a member down in servers, I believe, and as grenades start falling in, surely the player behind the mirror window is going to be feeling a bit unsafe.
Yeah, it was Geo, and last time he was down from a similar situation. This time he's playing it much looser. There is obviously the support structure that isn't doubled on his shoulder as it was before. We had 2 players behind Pillar. Now it's just 1 slightly further away. The man slips through, though, and Charla gets dropped on the corner. Geo will be told this, you assume, as soon as they start to piece together where it's happened from. But the spray is a lot of danger here as they drop themselves into blue. Geo finally finds some revenge. They find themselves in a tricky situation, though, as Souls has taken this moment to slip his way through. through. Under all the explosions, the Banshee will not be so audible. It's achieved. He drops the Gemini around the opposite corner, doesn't know it's not the real one, and now he's got to see if he can get the crossfire as they try and stick the diffuser. It's Geo. Goes big, digs his way round. There's two bodies above. They're going for a quick hop round the back side of the library, and he doesn't find him either. Geo's able to get a triple kill, buries his way through all the way to the back side of the office now, and Cameraman suddenly has a lot of work left to do. We can see one TSM body above with the cover and the split on the hatch as well. They've reset themselves up in a situation to get the response if they need to. He's aware, and he goes for a pre-fire, but doesn't quite win it out. It is now a 2 versus 1 situation with only 10 seconds. They've pulled back. They don't have to apply themselves with too much pressure. He takes it anyway. Geo for the 4K.
Such a strange round there by FaZe. They have full control. It was a 3-on-5 situation even. And then they start sticking the plant. I don't know why. Like, you had 40 seconds left. There was no need to go for the plant there. You could have just let Souls try and put some pressure. Also, the Ash just walking in. That should have been combined with the Sledge moving in from Sunrise. It's such a strange round. Not quite sure what happened there, but it started off very well here for FaZe. The entry kill and, of course, the injury onto T'Challa. Cyber was given away then, and Astra tried to go for the plant. Very strange. Either way, it is going to be 2-1. TSM will find themselves around, and that is going to be very welcome in these series, because so far it has been FaZe that was leading the charge and was leading the round. Going to Hookah Billiards now. It is going to be TSM trying to get their second round in. Make sure that it's all equaled up again. Well, will be playing on that Vigil, going for that roam, because that is something they have been very keen on. They want to go for these roaming situations. However, every single time they get singled out by FaZe, and that has been the big weakness here. Every single time FaZe are able to find these roamers and shut them down before they have any impact whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's the sort of highlight on the bigger problem at this moment in time, as we've said and seen. That close down on those loose players, that way of just collapsing on a play space, FaZe is so dedicated towards what they want to get, what they want to achieve, whether it is to find somebody to try and take care of a corner of a map. They'll make sure that it happens sooner rather than later. However, the split that we're seeing in this situation, though, is we saw it there on the plant. We saw the sort of negative side of that. It does take a huge sort of swan of power of Geo to pull up a 4K to pull it back. But in the same situation, in the same moment, how can you try and destabilize their approach? How can you throw off a clear game that is so consistent?
It's a big question. Quick pace being made here by FaZe, however, already taking care of some of the Banshees on the Billiard stable, and that is going to be giving away the game here as Bolo gets spotted out, almost loses his life, will stay alive just barely, but look at the collapse right here. 2-3 players. Manages to pick up one before he falls, though. Astro gets that kill, and with that, TSM have a bit to hold on to take care of Bullet. It is a Yana, it is a Gemini. Potentially grenades, I'm not quite sure if he carried previously. He did carry smoke, so might not be the case.
There was 4 players went for the collapse there. They dedicate themselves fully. And I'm curious what change TSM might look to, because they're obviously trying different operators to see if they can bring some success into their own, but maybe they need to go for a different structure. Maybe they need to see if they can potentially, I don't know, pull slightly closer towards the site, have these fights with a little bit more danger from the cover of the site, but that could be a mistake. That could be, it's the impossibilities of trying to predict how to battle back on Coastline, a map that has such little fat. There is no space for error, no room for mistakes, and barely any floor space inside what is often a very, very dangerous place to hold. Astro steadily opens up all of the walls inside VIP. They're getting themselves up for this big angle. They have the concern and the cover down towards the Melusi, who might try and swing out here. Achieved is waiting, but look at that. Still have the intel. They still have the pings. They still have all the knowledge. And, well, they're just going to hope that they respond at the perfect timing.
Punch and the run here from Achieved. Knew he was getting spotted, as of course you get that information nowadays. Second grenade will be popped, but also eaten by an ADS, so it's not going to be having any impact here as Geo tries to move back. As Selma will be, well, maybe making it a little bit difficult for him to play there, and smoke canisters will not pop. That means FaZe is going to be trying to go for the push right here. Cyber's already in D.
Digs his way all the way in, and we can start to see them putting pressure onto Geo, but the plant is being stuck just on the close corners of the bar itself, sprayed over the top. There's one apiece. The C4 doesn't quite drop. Astro, who's able to stick it, though with a sliver of health, and that is across the board of FaZe right now. It just takes a scrape and a scratch from the guns remaining. There's the first, though, and Merc hits heads. Now he's just got to see if he can get the double round on the door. It's a big spray, and Achieved is able to bring something back. He's holding the diffuser. He swings, takes one, goes aggressive. The pings are still consistently coming out on the other player. Merc is able to find the response there, gets the diffuser, and TSM get themselves back level.
Summers didn't really go as planned. They hoped to create a little bit of a bigger hole, but didn't matter in the end. They still went for the push. They still went for the plant and find themselves in a post-plant situation phase. However, everybody low on HP. TSM able to get the retake going and able to set themselves up to now lead in the matchup here on Coastline.
It's still a learning game for TSM. And I think that's the big point, is I think they're still trying to crack the early half, the first minute and a half of the round. How do we hold the rest of the space? There's 2 rounds left for them to see if they can put some distance in before they go to their attacks. Attacks generally you see have a lot more success on this map compared to a lot of other maps. Team depending as well, who enjoys it more, but it's still FaZe getting this early control. It's still FaZe getting this early lockdown. They also consistently make sure they go for the execute. They're not finding themselves too lost. Sometimes it's not to the greatest moment and intention. Obviously, we've seen 2 plants, or well, 1 attempted plant that was cut off as it went through. And then 1 plant that, it was just, he was stuck in a corner. He was stuck on the diffuser and had to fight his way out.
Just thinking, like, every single time we have the roamer being cut down without having any impact. This time, though, Bolo able to get the opening kill. Was instantly traded out, however. Like, Bullet got killed on the side of FaZe, and instantly the trade came down onto Bolo. I'm just wondering, what if the roaming setup would be a little bit closer to the side? Because what we keep on seeing now is that every single time the roamers are on the complete opposite side of the map, which means that FaZe is allowed to cut in from 2 or 3 different angles. It's going to be really hard to stay alive in that case if you're playing on TSM, or you're just going to have to hit the best shots in your life in your career right there. So I'm wondering, so what if the roamers go a little bit closer? For example, we're playing Kitchen now. What if the roamer will be playing in Sunrise, for example? Making sure that the horizontal will be locked off. Or what if there's going to be 2 roamers instead of just 1, so people can support each other? Because right now, it's every single time it's 1 solo player is going to be completely offside, gets challenged by FaZe by 2, 3, 4 different operators from 2 or 3 different angles, and there's nothing they can do about it. They keep getting shut down every single time.
This is the change I like to see in terms of trying to get some response against FaZe's game, is the double down of the Vigil and the Mozzie. You throw in a mute there, and we're seeing that from a lot of teams. It's just a standard bring and a standard play against great intel teams. The amount of times drones have slipped past and been able to get some hot intel that they've acted on so quickly, well, here's the response. He had to go back onto his drone because he didn't have the positioning because of that spider. And now, look at this. Look at how Merc's been able to dig his way back through. They're starting to learn how to battle back against this game. Obviously, quickly responded to by that grenade against Bolo, who hasn't really been able to dig his teeth into this game as of yet. He's quite early pinched and pincered very consistently. Here, though, FaZe, they're on a bit of a back foot, and there it spreads. Merc swings back round from the door of office over the top of blue bar, but only really serves them a very punishing drink, and now they're finding themselves in a little bit of a hangover. They've lost their Jackal to control the rest of the map space. They've lost that range soft destruction of the Ash. So when they're coming up against these Banshees, when they're coming up against these mirror windows where they want to try and apply some direct pressure or potentially just round the side, they're now severely limited to the smoke canisters and that 1 single frag grenade left.
They will be indeed, and as Achieved will go down. It's back in a 3-on-3 situation. However, Merc still standing. That is going to be a big problem here. Not quite sure if he rotated all the way back again or if he's still around office. No, doesn't seem like it. So it seems like he will be back near the site, or maybe even on that top floor. Oh no, he's running out on the site now. You saw him just quickly running towards security. So he is setting himself up to go for a bit of a challenge down onto the kitchen wall, because very often we do see teams trying to run all the way to the end of that kitchen hallway to make sure that they can go for the plant right there on that safe spot where no C4s will hit them. And as Astro is getting some information in, there's 55 seconds and a shield they will have to deal with. Merc now coming out of security into the courtyard. Might be the deciding factor here for TSM against FaZe.
The drone game is still aggressively rolling forward. It's sort of a bit of a dead air now. As you can see, FaZe are rotating around potentially to kitchen window, even deeper actually, all the way past towards service. They're going for the split push here. He wants to apply some of this pressure towards the backside of that close wall and then see if they can go for the extension. Astro, he's going on a bit of a manhunt here. Wants to see if they can, I guess, pull Merc a bit out of position, but with only 20 seconds, whatever they do here has got to be the impact. Will Merc know that the man's gone for the very wide rotation? He's able to slip past the mirror window that I don't think was being watched as the pings come through. That's the distraction of Sledge trying to dig up and draw them away from this lobby take, but it's Merc inside the middle of the courtyard, gives them something to think about, but with only 3 seconds, they got to try and dig through those 2 remaining players. It doesn't matter how you hop. TSM are able to find advantage yet again.
Able to pick up the lead now after 2 starting rounds from FaZe. It's TSM that is getting into this game. Started off with a good retake. Merc winning the 1v1 in the end and getting that defuse down. Now heading into round number 6, it is TSM in the lead after a very explosive start from FaZe and still a very effective play from FaZe because they keep managing to single out these players and shut them down. However, this time around, Merc was alive and Merc was able to do damage, and it all started off with this kill. As soon as Cyber went on that drone, that information was given away. He went for that kill and all proceeded to be a nuisance ever since, just getting these shots through the wall and staying alive really to put on the pressure.
It's the drone game where they were trying to run it to a fault in the situation there. That lockdown in terms of they felt that they were more limited. They were still trying to verify the positions, and it's not that FaZe don't act quickly, but they'd found themselves a little bit too trusting that TSM were going to fall for it again. And as we've seen, they're trying to adapt every single round. They're trying to find new ways to have a response to this game every single round. And it worked there. They were able to pull themselves back into a situation. They are up and guaranteed themselves at least an even split on their defenses. Can they dig one more out? Can they keep this sort of run going? Or will FaZe be able to bring some of this momentum back into their favor? Because the pace that they opened up with was very strong. But that trust in those drones, that trust in that intel, has started to cost them a little bit in these situations.
It definitely helped them, right? Up until round number 3, where Geo suddenly managed to get a 4K to save the round, and then round number 4 it was, where they got the plan down, but everybody was basically on like 10 HP, so 1 bullet away from being in the DBNO state. It is TSM that managed to win both those rounds, and that builds a bit of momentum, and that is something they would like to use and abuse right now. However, TSM, how are they going to set up their own game? That is the big question, because that has been the biggest weakness, I would dare to say, of their defense so far, and one that FaZe has been able to perfectly manipulate almost every single round.
Steady on the approach as they kind of slink their way into the corners that they want to have. It's not the same pace that we saw on them the last time they went for this. They've actually slowed themselves a little bit here. They're making sure that they aren't punished by the quick movements, because the previous 2 rounds, we've seen TSM get the opener. We've seen TSM react quickly to the quick open here. Bolo, yet again, wants to try and find a response inside security, prepping and pre-firing towards all the drones, but there's the person on the close window. They just go for a hot breach there. They go for the swing, and Bolo responds, gets out. There's one more drone. He tries to take the fight again, can't quite win it out, but Cyber went for something big, bold, and brash, punished accordingly. They did get the kill. They were set up for the trade. Now, though, a minute 20 left on the board.
And it did take care of the player that was inside of security, so all that's left now before they can go for the plant is get the courtyard control and to get the player that's playing above potentially with these verticals we've seen earlier. So if that player is not being taken care of, again, your diffuser planter will be taken care of and will be shut down. So FaZe, they need to make sure that they're putting up some pressure. Grenade again being tossed in. It's a good grenade. Geometric will go down straight away. I'm wondering if there's going to be a second grenade to be used to try and confirm that. Not as of yet. But Chala's getting quite close, has the opportunity to go for the pickup, but it's also the danger because if then the grenade comes in, could be a double.
I think that mirror window, yep, did just get popped open. They're able to respond. Shala goes down. Geo is confirmed now. A bit of a trade. It was a dangerous pickup, and we've seen them play that grenade a couple times before. Astro is going to try and stick the plant, but that destruction above gives them real big food for thought. They knew where he was coming from, and now it's down to Merc to try and pull everything out. But can't get around the corner, and FaZe find themselves on an even split with a bit of momentum before they head over to their defense.
Well, at least slowed down TSM, who were able to win 3 in a row before FaZe decided to strike back. And with a very good approach, I dare to say. Again, single out the roamer, you go for the hot breach, all right. To be fair, Bolo should have fell back there rather than going for the repeat because he knew that there was someone coming in from the sunroom. And instead of trying to fall back, he decided to try and win that gunfight. Got taken care of as a result, as you now see in that replay. Astro picking up the kill onto Bolo as soon as he went for that repeat. And then suddenly you have security control, you have office control, and that means you can try and go for this peak and for this plant. And with the hatch opened up, more sound comes through. They knew the flank was happening. And FaZe able to pick up their 3rd round in this half as well. We're all equal up, a 3-3 split, and then you're going to be wondering, all right, during playoffs, will it be a defensive or an offensive side of map?
We are all wondering that.
We are all wondering.
Everyone is wondering that.
I believe during playoffs, or during group stages, I have to say, it was a 55% defensive map. That has gone down a little bit now. It is about 53, so it is still defense-sided, but just ever so slightly.
There's a bit of caution, though. In groups, it was best of ones, and best of ones, great for unpredictability, great for these unknown results, but a best of 3 is an entirely different animal. It really shows the full stretch of a team. It starts to bring out this pace and these plays. I thought Cyber was going to stick that for a second, but I think they very quickly realized they had his number, and they had a bit of cover from the Jaeger as they slip away and pull themselves back to the opposite side. But look at this again, the control of the drone information, twinned with 4 C4s. They know what game they want to play here, and it is no entry.
No, it is try and let them come in, and then at the moment they're getting closer, try and go for these plants as Bolo. The first headshot down onto Astro. Just sprayed through these metal barricades and was able to find the head as a result. And now the E1D will pop and they get some pings as well. They know exactly where one of these players is. He's going to go for the second. Yes, he will. Bolo is going to get a peek now by Souls. He's going to be doing some damage and eventually will shut him down. But damage already done. Bolo just entering and getting that double.
Mark is looking for the reverse on this angle. They're playing it a little bit cautious. Spray towards the legs as he goes for the rotation, able to slip past and sets himself up on the backside of Souls, who was able to get one more. But again, there's the ping, there's the lockdown, there is that intel. Cyber is droning them out, doesn't see the man on the other side of the split, I believe there. Has misdroned out Geo, who's just going to hold that close angle as the Chief goes for the pinch here up the cool vibe stairs. There's the E1D that's popping off, but doesn't offer the support that they want as they have a lot of time. And I think that's one of the biggest differences here is to get to this point, we've gotten a lot more time left to work with for TSM. However, FaZe usually would have still had at least the man advantage. They would have still had 2 players left alive, if not 1 from the 2 that has lost. Now it's down to TSM to see if they can prove that on this 3 versus 3, they can dig themselves in.
Went for the drop, I believe, and Charlie got down as a result, and now a C4 will come out as well, just to try and push them back, but Cameraman has retaken the Sunrise control, and now the Mozzie drone has given away the information as well, which he can allow and use potentially to get the SMG-11 kill. Decides to fall back, though, as it isn't happening, and Geo, of course, is going to be trying to go for the repeat on his own terms. Only 33 bullets left, by the way, so Cameraman will have to rely a lot on a shotgun if he shoots any more with the SMG.
That Mozzie drone has caused so much trouble for this approach here on Sunrise. Every single step has been marred by every single pulse and every bit of intel, and FaZe is playing it perfectly. Now then, they only have about 40 seconds. They need to see if they can get just something put together. In terms of utility, they obviously have a lot from their actual operator utility. They have a lot of X-Kairos and they have a lot of swings of that hammer, but it doesn't really offer you too much. However, well, that's the utility that FaZe has. Swinging around the corner and being able to hit you with the C4. They played that C4 game. I think it was 1, if not 2 kills were secured with the C4s throughout that round.
Yes, it was. And they had 4 of them with them. One, I believe, was tossed out the window, and the other one just, as you saw right now. FaZe able to lead, able to retake the lead after, you know, they had it in round number 1, then they had it in round number 2, and then TSM managed to fight back. And FaZe now finally striking back after, even after Bolo was able to pick up a double entry. Pretty big impact, you dare to say, but
it's a good moment from Bolo, but it's again that slip up in terms of
going too aggressive, maybe. Like he wants to continue going, and sometimes you just have to fall back and decide this is enough.
See, I think it was the moment of they wanted to push this advantage, but FaZe has been very good with intel, and you always have to be aware of that. You can't always assume that FaZe knows what you're doing, I think is the safest way of approach. Usually some teams will think their attacks, their positionings, it can take people by surprise. But if there is anything that you can highlight as FaZe's best thing, and there's a lot that they do very well, it's that understanding of where everybody is. They seem to consistently have themselves moving into places where they can offer these quick rebuttals, these quick refusals. As we saw, they wanted to play this slightly long arm stretch thing. They've still got 4 C4s on another site, on an entirely different place here, and they're not playing them directly vertically. They're not setting themselves up as you would on the hookah to get underneath.
That is a nasty spawn peek you just saw happen there as Cyber taking down Merc. Is the Ash gone? And as we discussed about how Bolo, and they wanted to use that advantage the last time around, it's now FaZe that will get the advantage and, well, will be able to continue fighting because there's just no response. Of course there's no response. It's a spawn peak. It's really hard to have one of your members in position to instantly strike back after you just lose one of them as a result to it. It's going to be a very, very early deficit here for TSM, who are getting closer towards the end of the matchup. Or the end of the map, rather. Ooh, Cyber's being droned out. I'm not sure if he sees there's a drone right under that couch.
Well, that could be one of the moments where TSM starts to apply some pressure. We see that those lines are popped back on. They have those yellow pings, and Geo, you can get an idea, is pushing from roughly the other side, but not going for the direct here. Might be trying to swing up the hookah stairs, but another bullet hole peek. Another eye! And Bullet knocks Bolo back out of here.
Do you reckon he just left the drone on to be taken care of? And Astor gets a kill as well. Geo will fall. The diffuser is dropped, and FaZe are really taking this round into their own control here. Having the opportunity to fight back and put themselves up to 5 rounds. It is now up to Chala and the Chief to try and make sure that that won't happen. And a grenade will be tossed in behind the blue bar or behind the aqua bar. No one will be there. No one will be picked up as a result. And all they can do now is just hold angles and hope that FaZe becomes impatient, because there is no way you're going to be able to trade this out.
I mean, 2 bullet hole kills in the round. You could hear the reaction potentially in the background of where we're casting. It's a big energy and big confidence from FaZe, and rightly so. This is TSM's map pick. This is where they wanted to bring the fight. You're looking at, obviously, a growth through Chalet, which, you know, it could go either way. We've seen it a bit from TSM. We haven't seen it during the SI groups at all from them, though. And then you're obviously ending in Cafe, which is another great FaZe map. So, well, Astro with one more. The double and Cyber to lock off a flawless for FaZe. That's their 3rd round they've tied in a row.
Astro is really having fun. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it at home, but every single time he gets a headshot, he just goes the loudest woo you can imagine.
It's the energy that you need. It's the energy that you need, and TSM, rightfully so, they're going to take a tactical. They're going to take a bit of a break here. They're going to have a communication. You can see, obviously, both coaches get this moment, this minute to talk to their teams and sort of get themselves in a good headspace. But for FaZe, the energy's built and built and built. From what was a very strong start to what they're playing now with kills like this, and then how they were able to move on to the next one. Almost didn't lock it, but Merc couldn't quite work out where it was happening from.
Yeah, so what I think happened here is that they might have known that the drone was down there, but due to the bullet holes, you know, you could use that as a bit of a bait because you're safe from Aqua. So if they're pushing from Aqua, you might have been able to shut it down with the drone. Of course, I'm not sure. It could have just as well been that he just didn't see the drone, or it could have been that he was trying to go for the bait. I'm not sure if it's like 500 IQ play that I'm imagining it to be.
Big energy, big smiles, because they know that they're taking TSM's map pick right now, and they're pushing themselves closer and closer to locking it out here. They are so in control of the play space. They're just all over the place. And whether they're playing with these C4s and trying to keep people at arm's length, or playing these bullet holes, or just holding on to doorways, they're not shying away from anything. They are trying to respond to every single ingress, every single bit of pressure or momentum that TSM thinks or wants to try and get a handle on. FaZe are there to say, no, this is our map.
Lion will be making its re-entry now after they used it quickly in round 7, then swapped it off to the Nomad. Now Charla back onto that line with the V308. See if it will be what is necessary to slow down these FaZe members, because they have been just running around, especially if you saw Astro the last one, just getting through one tips, I believe, or headshots rather, just wooing it out. And now FaZe are a round away from reaching 3 consecutive match points, so they have the opportunity to extend their lead here and put the pressure onto TSM truly.
5 seconds remaining.
And of course, we're all waiting to see whether or not they will be able to make it happen, whether or not they will be able to secure themselves this round. Interesting rotation, by the way, one that you do not very often see, especially not when the floor is going to be on that top floor or the site. Will be, of course, there to guide Astro and allow him to freely run through on that top floor and make sure he's not too exposed to the outside angles of VIP balcony potentially, whilst the window does open up, so he might be receiving a bit of pressure soon.
You can see TSM, they've stretched themselves around for a bit of an arc and a bit of a push against the penthouse side. The cover is coming from the top of White Stairs all the way around to DJ Balk, and Astro's just trying to find a way out comfortably for now. And he's rightfully concerned that somebody's on the top watching it too, because he's realized just how much pressure is coming his way. Pops the scanner so he doesn't get revealed, as he's able to slip back towards Billiards and find another friendly face just to back onto each other, as TSM's able to flood their way into the top here. So far, this is in one of the effects, the most successful entry that they've had outside of the double kill, because there hasn't instantly been these fights. They've been able to push FaZe off of a position without suffering in the exchange, just from setting themselves up in these angles, these positions. The C4 just goes wide, and the E1D pops off there as he tries to slip past the kitchen window. Court fires back, but nobody is cooked as of yet. Again, another FaZe player slips into the corner, offers some support, and it's Bullet that suffers even further, sprays and gets out of there though.
Manages to escape with his life, just barely. However, as Cyber going quite aggressive now, spots out the player, knows he's right around the corner, gets him with the FO12. Bolo will falls the entry kill, and there's 70 seconds left. There's your Jackal gone as well, so you have no clue what these roamers will be playing around right now, and you need to make sure that your drone game is on point. And now we're swapping over to the other side, and we see that there's only 3 drones left on TSM that they have available to them to try and make use of. So not too much here for them to play with for these last 50 seconds.
Here it is though, trying to just measure up the positions that FaZe have set themselves in around this map. Again, they've been able to come back into spaces that they thought were previously clear. The Vigil's causing problems around the backside of Aqua, and they're wondering whether they need to try and drop that fight now before they go underneath, or see if they can flood themselves off cool vibes. Achieved is going to keep the angle, as Merc is the one that's making his way underneath, with Geo offering the split push, the bait of the play, as Cameraman throws the C4 out and then goes for the swing round the side to get the kill confirmed. Now, though, it's this 5 versus 3 situation. Geo with a hot hop inside to the blue bar itself, has to try and stick it with the 12 seconds left, and Achieved. Well, he wanted to offer the cover, but the cover comes from FaZe. They're going to try and stick the blunt, with Charla doing everything to lock it off. There is one man left, and there is just Geo dug in around the back of the bar, dropped by Cameraman. They get a plant off, but it's at the cost of, well, FaZe now have map point.
They have map point, and not just one M. It is going to be a full 3, and just look at their faces. They're so hyped up. They're so ready for it, and they're having so much fun. And as Ace says, a team having fun is the most dangerous team to play against. And maybe especially when it's a LATAM team that is having fun, because they are really elevating themselves whenever they're all hyped up. And Cyber here opens up the score in the middle of the E1D. We see that C4 toss again, because the first thing attackers try and do is one of two things. Either you flick to the C4 to try and shoot it, or the second thing is you turn around to try and run away. Of course, the Nitro Cell, it was nowhere near close enough to make sure that it would kill someone, so it might not have been the case, but it's still going to be allowed as a bit of a bait, as a fake flashbang, you could almost say. Either way, 6-3. It is going to be a match point here for FaZe. Are they going to be able to lock it off straight away, or is it going to be TSM that will strike back and will make their comeback, as they have been struggling so far? On their defenses, their roams were very swiftly shut down, and now themselves are on the attack, and they struggle with these roams quite a bit.
I mean, you got to give credit to how FaZe have taken control of Coast. I think it feels like their map throughout all of it. And obviously, TSM were able to thread 3 rounds together. One of them was a massive geo clutch, kind of just swinging back through the site as Mirror on the Vector. The other two, yeah, sure, it was a little bit more in terms of the split, but it's always kind of scruffy. It's always bullet laden. It's just the energy that FaZe is bringing to Coast, the control that they've been able to just document and dominate all the way across every single corner from their attacks and from their defenses. They have just been the monitors of the pace throughout this, and they're making sure that TSM are well aware of that fact.
You know, it's quite funny, actually, because TSM knows that the roams are an issue. Because if you look at the operator picks, you have Lion, then you have Jekyll and Nomad, a Jekyll and Lion, and then now you have a Nomad again. So they're really trying to make something happen with these roamers. They know they're an issue. They know they need to shut them down. However, they fail to do so. Cyber, with that ERC7, is escaping off the E1Ds every single time they pop. And while FaZe just generally not really being caught by either of the Jekyll tracks or the Nomad air jabs that are coming down as of yet throughout this game. And TSM need to change that, because these roamers, they are an issue. And right now their response seems to be, but I'm not going to be quite sure about that, let's hit the side directly.
Well, Bolo has dug his way up the side of luggage now. There's one body loose on the crouch behind Aqua and one swinging on the bar itself. They're going to try and play around the game of, well, we've got this setup of a trade. We have one more body, and one of them might go untested and uncontested because of that. The drones are whirring away. They've still got the lockdown on the top, looking down into the core of the sites itself to make sure that those splits either side aren't going to be a free rotation. Bolo, he's popping up and desperately trying to find a head, but look at the body underneath. Charla is going to make his way up. There's one more that's going out for the run out on Aquador just this second, I think, as the pressure starts to coalesce on each other. It's Charla that gets the run out on the door. It's Cyber and Bullet, though, that get revenge and response either side, and FaZe yet again have themselves in this situation of we have one more man.
It was such a beautiful setup there. They had Cyber laying down behind the couch. There was a mute jammer stopping any drones from luggage, and cameraman playing there as well. His entire job was not to get kills there, It was to make sure that no drones would be finding out about Cyber's position, and he's allowed to strike back as a result. They get the kill because of it. And look at Astro, he survives the second grenade and will be low on HP now, but it's still the man advantage here for FaZe. It is looking quite good for them. Only 35 seconds left and still a Banshee on the board. There's almost no utility to deal with it. Just one singular Ash charge. You see Merc is making his way over to try and deal with it as yet another member falls.
Well, there's still a body underneath too. They still have the lockdown on the vertical, as well as this lateral fight now, trying to offer cover, but torn up as soon as he swung around the corner. Merc has everything left to do to try and keep Coast in any sense of their control, but FaZe have come around the back of luggage. They're saying pack your bags already, mate. The impacts are flying over the top. 2 seconds, one more for the exit, and one more Merc, but FaZe Clan take Coast.
Beautiful triple kill in the end there of Merc, but the last member was way too far out. There was no way that he was allowed to get the quad kill there. And FaZe are able to take Coastline indeed, 7-3. After a beautiful setup, I have to say, in that last round. Use the Vigil and the Mute together. And